Dr. Nandipha Magudumana will spend another week behind bars until the Bloemfontein Magistrate's Court rules on her bail application. Magudumana is among a dozen people accused of helping Thabo Bester escape from a maximum security prison in Manguang more than a year ago. The court heard the closing arguments in Magudumana's bail application on Monday, where her defense lawyer, Machini Mutloung, and state prosecutor, Silo Matloko, squared off. Manguang called on the court to apply the law equally among all the accused. He told the court that it should also be careful not to have a situation of creating an animal farm where some accused will be treated differently, but all face the same charges. However, Matloko said Magudumana's plea for bail is not compelling. He argued that the applicant has not satisfied the court in producing evidence that is in the interest of justice that she be admitted for bail. For more on this, we're now joined by Laurie Pieters-James, and she is Chief of Operations and Head of Profiling at Cybareti Consulting Services. Laurie, thank you so much for joining us here on the late edition. Of course, when we track back to that court appearance by Nandipha Magudumana, many of us were actually left quite shocked because we saw an unconsolable Nandipha Magudumana, somebody that we never saw previously, because before she was very confident, putting on makeup, but this time around she was in tears. What do you make of her latest court appearance?
On Dr. Nandipha's uncontrollable behaviour, it's quite common actually, and to be expected. Remember, she's been in prison now for a little while. She understands what prison is all about. The confidence that we saw previously was typical of your narcissistic personality that's in control of her circumstances. She was with Bester, she was enjoying it, it was exciting, it was financially beneficial to her, and suddenly now she's found herself in prison, in real harsh situation, and unfortunately reality is starting to set in. And she's realized that she's fighting for her life. And this is quite interesting because I don't know if you're aware, she released a letter a little while ago in which she detailed her circumstances, which was incredibly revealing of her personality type.
Certainly. And, when we also think about that letter, many people were saying that is quite an arrogant type of letter for somebody who's still behind bars and is also seeking, for a bail application. But at the same time, would you say that this was just an act for the cameras, especially quite in particular to the fact that she is trying to get bail here?
Of course, it's an act for the cameras. This is a narcissistic personality type with very little empathy for the public, very little sympathy, very little understanding of her actions, and will never take responsibility for those actions. So she first tried humility. Even in her letter, you'll see that she went through a process of using different manipulative techniques that we see very commonly with criminals. So firstly, when she spoke about her deep humility with the situation, which of course no narcissist is ever humble. So that is a manipulation. Then she went on to playing the religious card, God is going to help me and he understands. Then she went on to the I'm being emotionally abused, I was blackmailed kind of scenario, which is very common with them. They'll turn to a history of sexual abuse to try to get the public to sympathize with them. Then she tried, I was kidnapped, which is totally in conflict to the behavior that she showed when she first met in court, where she couldn't take her eyes on him and was touching him and holding him and so on. This isn't the behavior of a kidnapped person. And then finally she turned to using her beautiful children and her family, which she left deserted and ran off to Tanzania with a murderer and a rapist. So, as you can see, she's trying every single manipulative technique in the book that she can possibly think of, which is very typical of your antisocial narcissistic personality type. She's a criminal. She doesn't want to accept responsibility for that. And although, she's yet to be found guilty of these crimes, there's certainly enough evidence for her to fear that she's going to join Thabo Bester in prison, probably for a very long period of her life.
And Laurie, I like the fact that you actually touched on, when we saw Thabo Bester and Dr. Nandipha Magudumana appearing together, we saw a very smitten Dr. Nandipha Magudumana, somebody who was clearly in love, and she was just blushing throughout that court appearance. Why should people believe that she was taken against her will if she was, being and behaving in the manner she was when she was with Thabo Bester?
I'm sorry, but anybody that believes that she was taken against her will, there's no getting around. This woman is a manipulative piece of work. She was not taken against her will. In fact, she's committed multiple crimes. She's been in and out the country. She organized this entire episode, the prison break. She's shown no empathy, no remorse for anything that she's done, and she's trying to manipulate the justice system at the moment, and that's my personal opinion. So the court will eventually have to make decisions on all of these actions, and all of her actions and all of her submissions, but as a profiler, as I said, we've seen these techniques used over and over again by manipulative perpetrators.
And Laurie, what does it say about the state of her psyche? I mean, if she, is also using her children here, saying that she needs to get bail, because she's got two children who need her. What does it say about the state of her psyche during this whole bail application?
Well, again, it's a simple manipulation. She left the country, she left her children with her ex-husband, and she ran off to Tanzania with Thabo Bester, not giving one thought to her children. So again, it's a tool. Her children are simply a tool to be used to manipulate the system to try and achieve this the bail that she's seeking. There's nothing more to that. It's a simple manipulation tactic, in my opinion, again.
And lastly, what are your expectations when it comes to that bail judgment? And, from the observations that you have made, what is the likelihood of her actually getting bail?
Well, that, of course, is totally in the hands of the magistrate. I do not think that she's going to probably get the 10,000 rand and that the other perpetrators got. She's got far more means. She's shown far more criminal tendencies. She is a flight risk, in my opinion. They would have to monitor her extremely carefully. She's been in and out of the country illegally on a passport. She states that she's handed in a passport, but we live in South Africa. It's not that difficult to get a fraudulent passport and to bribe officials at borders. So let's be real. The chances of her fleeing the country are very, very real. If I was the magistrate, I would be considering all of those eventualities very carefully.